Well, we are very happy to say that this episode has been sponsored by Masterworks. Masterworks turning out to be fantastic supporters of this podcast, and we're very grateful, aren't we, Tony?
Yeah, they're back.
We love a bit of Masterworks. Essentially, if you don't know, Masterworks allows you to invest in incredible artwork. If you are into your art, you'll probably know more artists than we do. I know the really famous ones, I think, and hey, Masterworks have some of their paintings, Picasso, Monet, Banksy, etc. I like looking at stuff. I just don't always know much about it.
But they do.
They do.
Yeah.
And the one thing which we all know is just how valuable some of these paintings can be. There's endlessly articles and news stories coming out of X painting selling for $50 million. It's really up there as one of the best investment assets. And so far to date, Masterworks has had over $700 million invested in their platform. They've got nearly 700,000 users. Some of their returns are crazy. A recent sale saw a return of 15.4% in just 36 days.
Yeah, that is incredible, to be fair.
Could you imagine buying a car and 30 days later it going up by 15%?
Yeah, so that is the real big difference between that and my job. I mean, I sell a depreciating asset. That's an appreciating asset.
100%.
Yeah.
So whether you're an art buff or nerd that's felt priced out of the market because of the insane values, or you're looking at someone who's maybe trying to make a quick buck because 36 days, that is a speedy old turnaround. It's well worth going to check out Masterworks. We're very grateful for them for sponsoring an episode. Huge thanks. Now we'll crack on with the episode. Hello one and all, and welcome to Behind the Glass, your weekly automotive podcast hosted by two rather uninformed enthusiasts.
No.
I'm Sam from the YouTube channel Seen Through Glass.
I'm Tony from Gravelwood Car Sales.
And you can watch us each week on YouTube. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and most podcast players. We hope you enjoy the episode. I launched on Sunday on the channel the start of Test Drive Month. Did you know I was doing this?
What, on your main channel?
On my main channel, yeah. Test Drive Month I launched.
We started something like that about 6 or 7 years ago when we first met.
We did. It was the hunt for... What was I replacing? The F-Type replacement.
Was it probably one of your best watched series, that?
You know what? I'll give it to you.
Far off.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah.
The hunt for my F-Type replacement.
Yeah.
All of those series, the My Next Daily series, the My Next Supercar, whatever it might be, they always do very well. But yeah, we did 5 or 6 videos test driving different cars that could replace my F-Type, and they all did perform very well.
And you know the most shocking thing, that if you go back and watch them videos now, I mean, even the professional that you were even back then, when you go back and, I mean, I was terrible back then. I'm terrible now. But what I'm saying is...
Same.
But you was loads more professional than I was. I was absolutely clueless. But when you go back and watch them now, you realise, like, how bad
we were.
Yeah.
And maybe we still are. Maybe in 2 years' time, we'll listen back to this episode and go, God, we were useless.
What was we talking about?
What were we talking about? But yeah, so anyways, I launched the thing Test Drive Month, and it's because, well, multiple reasons. The start of this year has been insane. I've been all over the world. I went to Austria in the GT3, Patagonia with Porsche. I went to Spain with Jaguar. I mean, the trips have been thick and fast and amazing.
Yeah.
I just need to draw breath and actually catch up with my daughter, because as a lot of people have noticed.
She's 4 now. Yeah.
I've been away a lot. I do genuinely have the most understanding and amazing wife, who is turning out to be also the most incredible mother. And yeah, has been doing a great job. Has been doing an amazing job at raising my daughter, because I haven't been around. So
in short, ladies and gentlemen, they probably had a row at the weekend and he's sucking up.
And I was like, yeah, okay, don't worry, babe. I'll do Test Drive Month. I'm not going anywhere.
I'll shout you out on the podcast.
Yeah. She would not care less.
No, of course she wouldn't.
But yeah, because I've been traveling so much, and actually I'm about to do a whole load more traveling. I wanted to take a month just to base myself here in the UK. It's supposed to be the start of spring. I was hoping that the weather would be a little bit nicer.
Pouring hard every day.
I don't want to get into it, but I'm so bored of this weather. It makes filming just impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm here. I went up to Alexander's Prestige to catch up with the legend that is Andrew. Drove a DBS and a Bentley Continental GT V8 in a Super GT shootout. Even though I didn't drive it, decided the Roma was the best of the bunch.
Well, you didn't drive any of them?
No, I drove the DBS and the Bentley and talked about the Turbo S and the Roma. It was a 4-car comparison.
And you picked the Roma?
We drove 2 of them. I think I picked the Roma. DBS really surprised me. But anyway,
Don't remember.
No, as in, I think I would pick the Roma. I think.
Right.
But the DBS really surprised me, and I love the Bentley.
Right.
Turbo S, disappointment.
Right. Yeah, but you're blasé about that Turbo S now. You love that car, and then you remember you
I still love that car,
Right.
mate. But when you compare it to the other 3, it falls short in so many areas.
Yeah, I disagree. I do think the Turbo S is still all round the best one. And then I'd have to. Oh my God, can't believe I'm going to say this. It would be a real toss up between the Roma and the Bentley.
You wouldn't have the DBS.
No,
Have you driven a DBS?
No.
Ah.
But I would instantly, because of my not so much of a love for Aston, I would instantly discard.
But I have always been a little bit aloof about the DBS because I had driven it once years ago in Carmel, admittedly in traffic, and I was just a bit like, it's just a loud DB11. Like I was a bit like, meh. But, and Andrew said the same thing, both of us were blown away by that car on that day. It was surprisingly fun.
I really like the Bentley.
So do I.
I do really like and obviously I owned a Roma, which was also a good car. They all do it really differently.
It's like really, it just comes down to how do you want to go about doing that job? Because they all are basically fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so that was amazing. Popped to DK Engineering, drove an SL65 Black Series, which was kind of unbelievable.
An SL65 Black Series.
Mercedes SL65.
Yeah, didn't they haven't they got an AMG Black Series there as well?
Yeah, the AMG GT Black Series and SL65 Black Series.
I really do still want one of them.
Do you?
I do, mate, yeah. They're still too expensive at the moment, but I do genuinely... In fact, I'll go on record and say I am going to buy one of them.
Whoa.
At some point, I am going to buy one of them cars.
It would suit you a lot. It would really suit you. It's a great car, but for me, the idea at least of the SL65 is more what I think of Black Series. You know, the GT Black Series is just brilliant.
The SL65 is not just death.
It's just death.
Yeah.
But that's what a Black Series should be.
Yeah.
Instant death.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going back to DK Engineering to drive a manual Ferrari 575, which I'm looking forward to a lot because that's a car that actually I think could one day be my next Ferrari. Always talking about the idea that I would love to add another Ferrari alongside the 360.
Is that not a front engine V12 thing?
Yes.
Manual?
Yeah.
That's a disaster.
One of the last manuals, because 599, they only made about 6 manual 599s.
But they did do... Isn't there a convertible manual knocking around as well? Like a one-of-one thing?
Of what?
599 Aperta manual.
An SA Aperta manual. I wonder if it's a factory. If it's a factory car, find me that car.
Yeah.
But
done you and I.
Come on, we got to research that.
I think I've seen that. I've seen. I might be wrong, but I think I've seen manual. Like a one-of-one thing. Maybe it's a different model. I don't know.
No, I think they could have done a manual conversion, obviously.
Right.
But I don't know if they actually did. Were any 599 SA Apertas manual? Only 30 examples were produced with a manual gearbox, of which 20 were destined. Blah blah blah. That's just the 599 in general. I don't think so.
No, maybe it was another car then. And there is such a thing as a GTO Aperta, isn't there?
No. So
right.
My understanding is the SA Aperta is somewhere between a 599 GTB and a 599 GTO, but it's convertible or it's roofless.
So it's an older version of an 812 GTS. Is that?
Yes, but it was super limited. So prior to the 812 GTS, Ferrari would only do convertible or roofless versions of their V12 flagship GT in very limited numbers.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they launched the GTS, I got all on my high prancing horse and was like, oh my God, they're ruining this iconically limited. I was a real dick.
And then you loved it.
And then I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Which I did say at the time. I said, I know I'm going to love it, but I didn't like the idea that suddenly this real flagship model for Ferrari suddenly became available to the masses. But it is what it is. Who am I to tell Ferrari what to do? Clearly I'm wrong. So there is the SA Aperta. I believe, feel free to correct me in the comment section, but I believe it's got a bit of GTB and a bit of GTO parts. Roof comes down.
Fair. But very exclusive.
Very exclusive. 575, manual's what I'm going to drop. What else have I got? M3 Touring. That video goes live on Sunday.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Toyota GR86.
Well, I'm glad you've mentioned that car.
Oh, okay.
Because I see that car getting mentioned quite a lot lately. And people are half forgetting the daddy of that concoction, that small engine manual rear wheel drive car, and that's the MX-5.
I don't think people are forgetting it, mate.
I think people think that GT86 is going to be same thing.
Nope.
But okay, but you know what I mean. Yeah. I think they think that that's going to be the new MX-5, but I think the MX-5 is still the best selling car, right, in that sector.
So I'm going to try and correct you, and hopefully I've got this right. The GR86 is extremely limited.
Yeah.
Because it's not numbered, but because of Toyota's global emissions output, etc. I think there's only like 500 cars coming to the UK or Europe
only
or something.
A little engine though, mate.
It's only a little engine, but hold on a sec. I need to remind myself exactly why this is. But why is the GR86 limited? It's only on sale for 2 years to comply with the strict new regulations.
Right.
Yeah. So it's, I don't think it's necessarily to do with the emissions. It's something else. It's something a bit bizarre. Hold on a sec. Let me see. In order to comply with this, in 2024, new European safety protocols will come into force, and vehicles that do not comply with these general safety regulations too will not be allowed to be sold.
Okay.
So there's something within that GR86 which wouldn't allow it to be sold. So it's a very limited run essentially.
Fair.
So I don't think it's like that going up against an MX-5 in that sense.
Same formula though.
Very much the same formula of, light, nice amount of power, affordable theoretically.
Yeah, that's it.
And people have absolutely loved it. I mean, you'll have to wait to hear my opinions in the main video, but people have gone absolutely nuts about it.
You've actually drove it?
Yeah, that's why I asked to buy one, because people have just been getting absolutely nuts about it. I thought I better find out what it's all about.
Yeah. So, you drive it on the road or on the track?
On the road.
Right.
It's a road car.
Of course.
It's a road car.
Yeah.
And then this weekend, I'm actually off to Lamborghini. I'm off to Italy.
Are you?
Yeah.
With Paul Wallace?
Not with Paul Wallace. Off the back of our uneducated chat last week about the Revuelto.
Oh, yeah.
I'm off to see it.
Are you?
I'm off to see it.
You're going to drive it?
I'm not going to drive it, unfortunately. No one's driving it. I'm actually going to be driving Urus Performante, I think, and LM002. So the oldest and the newest Lamborghini SUVs.
I wonder if you'll be able to tell the difference between the Urus Performante and the normal one.
And the Urus. The Urus S, Urus Performante, Urus, and the LM002.
Because I've seen them all side by side.
Yeah.
And honestly, mate, apart from the wheels and a little bit of a lip on the rear wing, you can't tell the difference.
Can I be honest? I'm only going to drive the LM002 because I've always wanted to drive one, and to see the Revuelto. I've got to be honest, and hopefully Lamborghini don't listen. I'm really not that fussed about the Urus Performante because I really like the Urus. I think it's brilliant.
It is brilliant.
I think it's the best of that super SUV segment.
That's the first time you've ever said that, but okay.
No, I think I have said that before. I think it's the best.
Slag me off when I said it's the best one.
Well, since I drove it in Australia, again, I think it is the best.
I agree.
In that segment. I just have the Bentayga instead. Anyway, long story short. I don't imagine the Performante is going to be like night and day different. I could be wrong. So I'm just a bit like, cool that it's there and I'll drive it. Great. I'm sure I really like it. But I'm coming for the Revuelto and the LM002.
I would say the difference in comparison would be like a normal RS6 and an RS6 Performance.
Yeah.
Probably not a great deal of difference.
But still, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's 48 hours in Italy, driving Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Perfect.
Can't wait. So that's test drive month. It's going to be running across the channel for the rest of April. Before then, I launch into some more big adventures. Taking the GT3 into Europe, probably going to do its first track day.
Where are you going?
Kind of pooping myself.
Do you want to take my one instead?
Yeah,
Because I've got a
please.
PDK one.
No, not because it's PDK.
Why then?
It's because if I write it off, I'll cancel.
You've still got to pay for it.
No. Taking the 360 on a huge adventure, which is going down to AV engineering to be prepared for, like a terrifyingly huge adventure, and then ending up at Maranello Legacy in Portugal with it. So that'll be very cool. And then the month in Monaco that I'll be doing, I've got the Range Rover Sport and the GT3.
Yeah,
so
I'm coming.
you're going to come down, aren't you?
Yeah.
So we're going to do some podcasts there. So yeah, lots and lots of adventures ahead. But yeah, it's a frantic time. And actually, it's a good segue to bring us on to something that we kind of wanted to announce or mention.
Yeah.
Is that because things are so hectic, especially this year, well, over and above every year it's been hectic, we kind of feel like we need/want some help, right?
We need a bit of help, I think, yeah.
We've got a lot of new series that we're bringing into what do we call it? Into production this year. You've already known about Car Park Chat. We're doing the F1 special series over on Recast. We've got a new series coming up called Stars and Their Cars, which you'll probably be able to work out what that's all about. We've got the live shows, which we're about to announce the dates for. Tickets aren't going to go on sale probably to the end of the month, but we can let you know the dates. And we're even looking at doing the first behind the glass tour that you could come on. So
Yeah.
we're going to do Australia in November. I mean, there's a lot happening.
There's a load happening, yeah.
So we think we want to bring in a researcher/producer. It will be a part-time role, probably 1 or 2 days a week. Most of it can be done remotely, but we want someone who can come to the studio and be here as we're recording, but also come to the live events, things like that. Not always, but sometimes. Ideally, it's someone who has experience with video editing. You don't have to be a complete whiz, but some experience in video editing. And really, the main skill is an absolute obsessive, compulsive, scary, freakish knowledge of the automotive world.
Yeah.
Because we want to use this person to help formalize the episodes a bit. So to work on topics, to do the research in advance so we have a little bit more information as to what we're talking about, to call us out when we're just talking absolute crap, wave their arms frantically. Go,
So every episode.
Yeah.
So you better be here.
You're wrong. You're wrong. We do like a fact check. If you listen to Dak Shepard's Armchair Expert, at the end of that episode, they do a fact check.
Do they?
Yeah, where his sidekick/producer basically calls him out on all the stuff that he
Goes
made
in on
up.
him.
Yeah. So we'll sort of do a similar thing to that. So yeah, long story short, we're looking for this person. So yeah, ideally southeast of England based, UK based, 1-2 days a week.
Got to be UK
based.
Yeah.
1-2 days a week. I say obsessive, compulsive, just nerdiness in terms of the automotive world. If you think that's you can get in touch. jobs@seenthroughglass.com. That's jobs@seenthroughglass.com. What we want you to do is write an email with 3 proposed topics for a podcast. So you could say, right, I would suggest you do top 5 cars of the 1990s. And a few bullet points saying, right, these are our suggestions. Here's some cars you could discuss. Here's things you should know about, just to basically brief us. So that's what you want to do. You want to do jobs@seenthroughglass.com and 3 topic suggestions.
Yeah.
And that's how we'll whittle through. And then hopefully we'll get in touch with someone and then bring someone on, as I say, part-time role, not full-time. So you could potentially do it alongside some other work. So that's that. And then the live shows, which you mentioned, should we just shout out the dates so you can start putting them in your diaries? Because we are in the final stages of planning our UK live shows for the year. So dates that you can put in your diary: Sunday 25th of June, Sunday 30th of July, Sunday 27th of August, Sunday 17th of September, and the Sunday 29th of October. So put those dates in your diary. More information and tickets will go on sale probably at the end of the month. We're going to hopefully have slightly bigger audiences, slightly different timetable. And then in November, we're off to Australia. So if you're in Australia,
We're coming.
If you have a venue, I've asked this before, and lots of you got in touch. If you have a venue, if you have ideas, things like that, Australia for November, please get in touch. But yeah, once again, dates for Behind the Glass Live in the UK this year. It's 25th of June, 30th of July, 27th of August, 17th of September, and the 29th of October.
But genuinely, mate, if we're going to Australia,
Yeah.
can they put the sharks and the crocodiles away?
Oh, mate, we're not getting in the sea. I'm terrified of the sea.
I'm not, because I want to come back. I don't want to come back legless.
It's not the crocodiles and the sharks you need to worry about.
What?
Really? It's the drop bears.
The what?
That's a joke. The Australians were going, "Oh, Sam, you joker." Apparently, it's a way that they like to wind up visitors, and especially English people, by warning them about drop bears, things that don't actually exist. But no, mate, it's the insects. It's the insects that will kill you because they sneak up on you, and they will kill you. But yeah, please do genuinely get in touch. Just info@seenthroughglass.com for that if you're in Australia and you've got some venue suggestions or ideas for our trip to Australia. Well, a lot of life admin. Should we get into some car chat?
Yeah, because we're 25 minutes in.
25 minutes in, and we just talked about my life all that time. I sent you a super interesting article over the weekend.
We did, yeah.
Which you weren't able to read because it's behind a paywall. So I'll talk to you about it now. About electrification in China.
Yeah.
China. Unsurprising to hear that China are, well, absolutely flying ahead.
They're in front?
With EV adoption. Yeah, I mean, just an EV tech, I think. So this was an article in the Telegraph. And actually the article was talking about the fact that China's push towards electric vehicles is a warning, a threat, an issue for Saudi Arabia and the US. Obviously big oil suppliers. Because China historically have been big oil importers. But because of their push towards renewable energy and electric vehicles, they demand or require less and less crude oil.
Perfect. We can have it then.
Well, yeah, theoretically, but hopefully we're also going to be on that track towards renewable energy. So that was a fascinating case study. But some of the stats or some of the things that I pulled out of the article, which I thought we could discuss. So firstly, the two best-selling EVs in China, firstly, the BYD, 22 grand.
Are these Chinese companies?
Chinese companies. So I think BYD's in Europe now, I think.
Okay. But Chinese cars, historically, even the petrol ones, they are very cheap.
Yes, because they're able to make them very cheap. Doesn't necessarily mean they're good.
but even so 22
grand.
Good.
And the second best is something called the Wuling Mini at 4 grand.
Yeah, see, I think they've hit the nail on the head. I absolutely think that is the way forward for electric cars. And it's why I think they're having the huge price dip that they're having in this country now, because we've said before that for everyone, for some people they're all right, but for everyone they're less convenient and they're not as good as their petrol counterpart. So when you put that into mind or in the mix, really they should be cheaper than a petrol car, but they're not. They're more expensive.
Like all new tech though, right?
Like all new tech. But
go on.
But the thing is I actually think there will be a used car future for electric cars, but when they become cheaper than petrol.
Yeah.
Or the petrol equivalent.
I think most manufacturers and most EV evangelists are saying that they realise that, that has to happen. Electric vehicles have to become at least the same price as combustion engine vehicles or cheaper for that mass adoption. And China clearly leaps and bounds ahead of us there. They reckon that they'll be at 40% electric vehicle market share by the end of the year and close to 80% by 2030. So they are just flying. I think Germany and the UK's market share is growing a little bit quicker, but because of the ramping up that's going on with the infrastructure and the manufacturing in China, they expect it to overtake Germany and UK in terms of adoption very soon.
I also wonder if we should take them figures with a pinch of salt as well, because like this country, is that registrations or is that delivered vehicles?
I don't know. I think they sold 3.3 million electric vehicles last year. But
actually sold?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's sold or registered or whatever.
Yeah.
But no matter what, I mean, let's not also forget they have a lot more people.
Is it like a billion or something?
I actually don't know the population of China.
It's huge though, right?
It's huge. Yeah. But fundamentally, they're just doing a lot of work in this space, which seems clever. They produce 90% of solar panels for the world currently, and 70% of lithium output comes from China. But over and above that, they have these vast solar fields in parts of China that are trying to, I can't remember the number, it was some ridiculous like 3,000 gigawatt generation that they want to get to by 2030, which is like ridiculous, blows everyone else out the water. So they just seem to be far more aggressive in their electric strategy than the rest of the world. So when we sit here and we complain about infrastructure and manufacturing and raw materials, China are just kind of like bashing ahead in a really quick way, which then also helps them produce cheaper EVs and more accessible, more renewable electricity.
Well, they just made it in mass. They've just made a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
A lot quicker than the rest of the world, and some of that, mate, will be due to the volume of people in the country. You know, there's only 70 or 80 million people in this country. If there's a billion or more than that in China, obviously they can scale it up quicker because they're going to sell more.
For sure.
The audience is bigger.
But one of the most fascinating parts of this article was I had no idea Neo, who I had heard of. I think Neo did a supercar a while ago. No, Neo.
Oh.
What? Singer?
Yeah, Neo was a singer, no?
Neo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
not him.
No. NIO.
Oh.
They have introduced battery swapping for electric vehicles.
No. Explain that to me.
So they have, I think, or they're aiming to, or they have 3,000 odd stations in China.
Like petrol stations?
Like petrol stations. They look like boxes. They look like We Buy Any Car boxes. You know, like basically you turn up, push a button on the car, it automatically self-drives itself into the box, goes up on a lift, a machine unscrews the battery in the car, takes it out, screws in a new charged battery, and you drive away in 3 minutes.
How long does that take? 3 minutes.
3 minute turnaround.
Genius.
Absolute genius.
Genius.
If you bought a Neo from a dealer, that is a completely free of charge service.
Right.
If you buy it used from Gravelwood Car Sales Shanghai, then you just get charged at the usual kilowatt per hour rate. So if you turn up with a 20% battery, you get charged 80% charging rate. And the way it works is I think they've got like 312 batteries, or they can do 312 changes a day or something like that. But obviously if they take an old battery off, a 20% battery off, it then goes on charge. Then it can be replenished and put back into a different vehicle later on.
Genius.
So when you turn up, you can see, right, there's currently 10 batteries at this charging station. I want the one with 100%, I want the one with 30%, whatever's available, whichever costs cheapest or whatever. And if you can also say, okay, I want a fully charged one. It says, right, it'll be ready in an hour, sir. Which, okay, that defeats the point slightly. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
It's absolute genius. And I think this is rolling out in Europe as well. I had no idea, but bravo, Neo. Now, my only thing is does this make sense in China because you say the scalability? What are the inherent costs and implications of that many batteries? But does that not really matter?
Well, the number of batteries isn't that many. Like you said, there'd be 10. So
just recycling.
They're just recycling all and recharging, and then it goes in another car.
I guess
basically. Disaster
if it goes wrong, but
there'll be some flaws, mate, for sure. 100% there'll be some flaws because there's flaws in every business, right? There's always a problem. Sometimes you look at people's businesses and you go, flipping hell, they're having it off. Try and go and do their job.
Yeah, mate.
You know what I mean? Like, it's sometimes every business has a problem.
But do you think, can you foresee that being one solution for charging infrastructure issues, for delays, for range anxiety, if you just had a place that you can just pull in, 3 minutes, off you go?
Well, I mean, it definitely helps because that's how long it takes you to fill your car up. So that's a tick from my point of view. That's good. But like you said, the more and more electric cars we have, they're not going to need 10 batteries. They're going to need even more. And then there's going to be a queue. Then they're not going to be fully charged.
But does it matter if there's a queue if it just takes 3 minutes?
But it won't be 3 minutes, though, if there's a queue to get in the box.
No, but you can go to very busy petrol stations and there's queues.
But not, I mean, fair. But how often do you sit at a pump, really?
In central London, quite a few times I'll wait in a queue to get to a pump.
All right. What? 6, 7, 8, 10 minutes?
Yeah, but that might be the same with if it's 3 minutes.
Yeah, honestly, I can't remember. And I do a lot of driving every day. I can't remember the last time I pulled in a petrol station and I queued behind someone to wait to go on a pump.
Okay.
From my point, I mean, I do driving in London as well. I probably don't fill up in London, though, to be fair. Always make sure just because it's a pain in the arse. Always make sure I fill out London. Maybe that's what I do. Maybe I subconsciously just drive in a petrol station when I know it's
free.
Maybe that's what people do in electric cars. It depends how many there are around the area.
I think it's a really, really interesting idea.
Potentially genius.
Potentially genius. And NIO seem to be doing a lot of stuff in China to try and make EV ownership as easy as possible. And lots of clever ideas. And I think that's what I liked about this article, is whilst it was actually trying to allude that, this was a political move, it was the fact that actually I took out loads of things that go, well, yeah, oh, that makes sense. Like, duh.
Yeah.
Stuff which we seem to be slightly lagging behind on, here in the West.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I know we do go in on electric cars and stuff, but to be fair to electric cars or electric in general, there's so many obstacles they've got to get over to get to the point to make them as good as a combustion car. Like we've said before, it took 100 years to get to this point to make the combustion car basically perfect. So with that reckoning, all right, they've got the base on the electric car, but with that reckoning, that's how long it's going to take to perfect an electric car.
Potentially, even though they were electric cars 100 years ago. But let's use that to move on and talk about engines, to talk about the combustion engine.
Yeah.
Because actually our main topic for today is the fact that I think an iconic engine is about to die. We'll come back to that in a second. Because before that, when I was in Patagonia with Porsche, on the very first night, we had dinner with Marcos Marquez, who's head of the Porsche e-fuels project, but used to be an engine guy. I think first at Audi and then at Porsche.
Right.
And whilst we were at dinner, he started talking to us about these kind of engine projects that never saw the light of day.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is amazing information. I thought it was off the record. So I was like, oh, I can't really talk about this anywhere. And then Steve Sutcliffe, who was on the trip with us and sitting next to me at dinner, just like published a whole article on it. So I was like, oh, okay, well, clearly this can be discussed, which is super exciting because it was a really cool chat. And I've just reminded myself of some of the details. But yeah, so first up, he spoke about a project, which, okay, so he claims as the engine department, they're not told what the engine is required for. They're just told, build this engine.
Are they?
Yeah. So he said, we don't know if it's going in a race car or road car or whatever. We're just told, build the engine. We don't know anything else about
But
it.
that would make sense, that, mate, because if they're just trying to keep a model or a certain car secret, you want as least amount of people to know, because that's how leaks come out, by the way.
And why would the engine department need to know where it's going?
I need to know.
You just have to know the criteria. So they developed a 5-litre twin-turbo flat 8, circa 750 horsepower, around 730 pound-foot of torque.
When was that?
This was, I think he said it was just before the 718 came in. So what we're talking about, 2016?
Ooh.
17, something like that?
2016, yeah, roughly.
Something like that.
15, 16, yeah.
Maybe a bit earlier, because don't forget the development phase for any of these vehicles is often
miles behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So or miles earlier than the car comes out. So yeah, 9,000 RPM, a red line, and it was linked to a manual gearbox.
Wow.
And it was put into a Cayman chassis,
What?
and they were doing running road tests with it.
Oh my God.
Now, we surmised at the dinner, and sort of you would assume that this was potentially going to go into some kind of hypercar. Now, whether that would have been a 918 successor or not, or what, this was the kind of thought that it was going to go into some kind of high-up, mid-engined, special Porsche.
I think possibly, because around that time, if my memory serves me right, Porsche were talking about, or there was whispers at least, of making a mid-engine supercar.
Yes.
To compete with a 488 and a Lambo.
You're right.
Do you remember that?
I completely forgotten that.
Yeah.
And it was about
That's
like
what
going
that
back
was
to
for.
the 904 Carrera type thing,
Yes.
the old mid-engine race cars from Porsche. You are so right.
That was, and they ditched it.
And you know what he alluded to? You know those vision concepts that came out saying, oh, this is what Porsche could have done, or blah, blah. He was like, well, some of them were legit projects.
Why have they ditched that?
Well, apparently they didn't ditch it entirely because that's how we ended up with those slightly interesting 4 cylinders in the 718 Cayman and Boxster.
Cut them in half.
Literally. So they'd done all this work and developed this amazing engine, and it was bolted to a Cayman chassis, and they were like, okay, well, this has been scrapped. It's like, well, what can we do? Well, if we cut it in half, we've got this interesting little turbo 4-cylinder. Yeah, heck, let's use that. So really interesting. Got scrapped for whatever reason. Who knows why? They just went in a different direction.
Yeah.
You say maybe they decided not to. I remember that now. Yeah. Those mid-engine. Oh, well.
And,
anyway.
it is amazing what a manufacturer does, because we do know the research and the money that goes into building cars and the engines and stuff. But you'll be so surprised of stuff like that
huge money in research just gets scrapped.
But then accidentally, you cut something in half and then you mass produce it, and that's how they get their money back, because they're not stupid, these manufacturers. You know, they make huge profits throughout the year. And I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Rowan Atkinson on Top Gear that time when he said they built the engine for the roller?
Yes,
and it was the same thing. And they actually
was it a V16?
I
think it was a V16 in a Phantom, and there's one of one, and they actually built it.
They actually built it because it was in the film, and it was actually there in the studio, and it worked completely fine because they'd built it actually for that car and then threw it away. Yeah,
their plan was to, I think it was a V16, to put that in the Phantom.
Yeah,
and then it never happened. But Rowan Williams knew about the project.
Rowan Atkinson.
Sorry, what was I saying? Rowan Williams. It sounded wrong when I said it. That's why I hesitated. I was like, who's Rowan Williams?
You meant Robbie Williams.
Thank you.
Also went wrong.
All went wrong. 9-litre V16 engine. God, I can't get my words out today. But so you're right. There'll be so many of these projects which we never hear about.
Yeah.
But get developed to an extreme, basically to be road ready, and then scrapped at the last minute, and then we end up seeing it in a different form.
But also, I bet Rolls-Royce, I bet they used the basis of that engine, cut it in half, and put it in something else. Put it in a Wraith or some, you know what I mean? Because maybe that's how they come up with these ideas in the first place. Yeah,
well, I guess it was to do with smoothness and displacement. I mean, V16.
And while we're talking about engines, because I love talking about engines, by the way, all excited. BMW are the best at it, because loosely, that straight six engine, the engine that's in your car, the B58 engine, which is possibly, we said it before, one of the best engines around. They've been making them engines for 40 years, loosely.
Sure.
It's mad. Yeah. Madness.
But brilliant.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll like this next story, because the other thing that Marcus let us in on was the fact that there were plans at Audi to do a baby R8 at one stage for the second generation R8. So not the facelift of the first gen, but the second gen, the one that you and I test drove, that orange one that you and I test drove.
The one that I had, one of them.
Oh, okay. Oh, you did? Yeah,
I did, yeah. How dare you?
To put the TTRS 5-cylinder engine in there and have it as an entry-level, lightweight, manual, rear-wheel drive R8.
So that would basically be a replacement for probably the old V8 manual.
That was the idea. So, because obviously for the second generation, you just got V10 or V10 Plus,
correct?
Didn't you?
Yeah.
So they wanted to have this baby R8, exactly that would still be a sort of entry level, a cheaper version, but they were going to put the 5-cylinder, so manual gearbox, rear wheel drive, light on its toes. So a bit like Lotus are doing with the Emira. Yeah. You had the full-blooded one and then a baby AMG engine there. But I actually think that would have been a great formula. I mean, it would have been just a bit more of a fruity TTRS, wouldn't it? But rear wheel drive and
manual gearbox. Yeah.
What a cool car that could have been.
Yeah. While we're on the subject, I know we're going to talk about it a bit more, but while we're on the subject of Audi V10s, I've got one in stock at the moment, a V10, and I'm not plugging here. I'm just saying I drove it the other day, and they're incredible value now, mate.
How much is that?
It's like 75 grand. Yeah. It's got all the bits on it, and it literally still feels like even for me to say it still feels like a modern, full-on supercar. It's just like a mega bit of kit. Even looks modern.
Yeah. Oh, I think from that second generation onwards, it's quite hard to tell. Like, where was that? Oh my God, that was 7 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, time just kind of flew and they didn't make too many drastic changes. Still sounds the bomb. Performance is nuts. All-wheel drive or quattro, so you can just go anywhere, anytime. Yeah. Audi's user interface, that always is so forward-looking or future-looking.
Well, do you remember that?
Futuristic.
When they bring the TT and the R8 out, that's when they started having the digital dashes.
Yes.
But I mean, some cars haven't even got that now.
No, I know.
Do you know what I mean? And it's 7 years. So when you get in it, it does all look familiar, but it does all look really modern Audi. It's mad.
Well, yes, I can't believe you're actually saying positive things about a modern classic.
It's not a modern classic.
No, it is. You've thrown me right off. But you mentioned the engine, and that is the sort of main meaty topic for today, the V10, because obviously Audi have now finished with the R8. They released that final edition.
Yeah.
The Huracan is about to cease production. We're seeing the last few variants of it now.
Technical.
And that's probably going to go into some kind of hybrid or maybe a smaller sized engine, a V8 or...
But really? Do you think that they'll do that, Audi? I still think they still will have a V10, no?
Do you? You think
And
it'll be a hybrid V10?
Yeah, because look at the new Revuelto. That's still a V12, but a hybrid.
But I think that's because it's the flagship car, a bit like with Ferrari and the 812. I think that there'll always be a V12 at Ferrari.
Okay.
But then the mid-engine, the V8 car became a V6 hybrid. So I would assume the Huracan's going to become a V6 or a V8 hybrid.
Well, it would make absolutely perfect sense for them to put like a tuned RS6 engine in that Huracan. The V8 turbocharged engine.
Hold on a second. Evo have said the V10 will live on in the upcoming Lamborghini Huracan replacement.
Yeah.
Well, that's just completely ruined my entire...
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. Because at some point it will die. So I do really like the V10, but until you get it up in the revs, it's quite a lazy engine, a V10.
So a bit confusing here because it said, this is another article now on Motor One saying that the Huracan successor will adopt a twin turbo V8. I think basically no one really knows.
Yeah.
But let's stick with the thought that there is a chance that the V10 engine is about to die.
Well, it is going to at some point.
Yeah, and it is going to at some point because it could be that the Huracan is the last car using it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy because it's actually been a little bit of a short life cycle for the V10 if you think about it. Didn't really start coming into road cars until the early 90s, probably as a result of it being developed so much in motorsport, in Formula One, when they started using V10s, even though it was the Americans who kind of used V10s first. It took a while for the Europeans to catch up, and even then, it was Audi and BMW, people who weren't really in Formula One at the time. So you can probably track it as like proof that, okay, a V10 can work, but it's not necessarily as clear-cut as flappy paddle gearboxes coming down through Ferrari and stuff.
Yeah.
But they've always been quite niche. They've always been in sort of slightly bespoke sports or supercars.
Yeah.
Apart from the M5, I suppose, and a few...
There was an RS6 V10 as well.
Yeah, a few like luxury sedans.
Yeah. Didn't the 7 Series and the...
was there an S8 or something like that with a V?
Something like that,
Had a V, like, there have been some weird V10s along the way, but otherwise you've got, Carrera GT, LFA, yes, Huracan, R8.
Yeah.
But it's probably a handful.
Yeah.
It's quite a weird engine.
I don't think it's the best. Personally, I actually think the V8 is the best engine.
For me, the V8 is the one hands down.
I think that's the engine for... And a V12, is good, but for efficiency and what it does and power output, the V8 is the best.
And but I think that's exactly it, because I think the V10, as I say, if you rev the tits off it, and in certain situations, definitely more motorsport-derived situations, hence Carrera GT, sure, you can make it make sense, but in the world that we're in now, with efficiency being the key...
I think it's quite heavy as well, mate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't... I understand why it's going out of fashion, but because it's going to potentially have this short life cycle, is it really in our generation that are going to care about it? Like, if you're someone who's into 50s, 60s and 70s cars... probably V10s never really are on your radar. And hey, if you're growing up now, there's so few V10s around, do you really care? I like V10s because when I started watching Formula One, all they were using were V10s.
Yeah, and they do sound good, a V10. They have got a lovely...
shouty tone.
A nice pitch to them, yeah. They have got a nice noise. And I always really do associate a V10 with the Lambo and the R8. They're the two cars that I really... associate a V10 with. Yeah, you got the M5. I don't think that was a great engine. That I think that
in the M5.
Yeah, I think the V10 engine in the Lambo and the Audi. It's the same engine, isn't it? But
in that STO, I mean, when you get that thing singing, it is nuts.
It was same as a Perf. I mean, it's
proper engine.
Well, it is, yeah, but it's like until you get it really up in the revs, like it is a little bit of a. They haven't got loads and loads of torque. A V8, I don't think you can go wrong with a V8.
Do a little bit more research here
and you turbocharge a V8. I mean,
yeah. Well, could you turbocharge a V10?
You could.
What would happen
if you wanted to die?
I just wanted to have a quick look. Lamborghini. I came up with my own little conspiracy just then, and I'm going to just check. Oh no, because I was going to say in our conversation earlier about engines being developed, then scrapped and used in a different way. Obviously, Lamborghini had a half-hearted attempt at building a Formula One engine at one point, didn't they?
Did they?
Yeah. It was put into a McLaren, and Ayrton Senna drove around in a Lamborghini engined McLaren. And I thought, maybe that's how we ended up 10 years later with the V10 going in the Gallardo.
Yeah.
But no, it's a V12. So, because it's quite strange that Lambo really sought out that engine. I mean, through their group, showing it with the Audi. But interesting that they really saw that. I mean, they are really the flag bearers for V10s, if you think about it.
Well, it was in the Gallardo first, but it was Audi had already took ownership of Lambo by then, right?
Yes. That was like their first collaborative project, wasn't it? Because that didn't the Gallardo predate the Aventador? Or did the Aventador predate the...
the Gallardo was there first, then the Aventador come, but it was a Murcielago before then.
Oh, Audi were involved with the Murcielago?
No, that was when they...
that was the crossover, right?
That was the crossover.
I think the Gallardo was the first fully... Let's just fact check.
And they put a V10 in it.
Yeah.
I wonder why they done that. Because Audi had V8s then. Maybe they just wanted it more shit.
Audi bought Lamborghini in 1998.
Yeah, so when did...
and as of 2011, it was a full subsidiary. And so then vehicles... When did the Gallardo turn up?
Was it 2005, 6?
2004, I think. Yeah, 2004.
Yeah.
And Aventador was launched 2010, was it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
2011.
10. Yeah.
Yeah, so Gallardo was well before that.
Well before the Aventador, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that the Murcielago was the crossover car where there was a bit of Audi in it, but started Lambo, but a bit of Audi.
Sure.
From memory.
But anyway, as I say, whether they choose to keep that engine on with the V10, with the Huracan or not, it's just something that very quickly has gone out of fashion. And
was it ever really in fashion?
That's a good question.
That's the problem. Because really no one uses it apart from the Audi group.
Yeah. No one really jumped on the V10. It's just a bit of a weird one. Where V12s are still going strong, really, aren't they, if you think about it?
But they always have done.
Yeah.
Like when you look at old Lambos, they were always V12. Old Ferraris, they were V12s. Even the the early Ferraris were V6s, weren't they? Were they V8s, then V6s, then went back to V8s, didn't they? Some of the early Ferraris.
Well, for like Dinos and things like that.
Yeah. But no one used V10s, apart from, like you said, the LFA, and then BMW decided to
stick it in an M5.
Stick it in an M5.
And the Carrera GT, as we know, is a motorsport drive on, which makes sense. Given the motorsport. I mean, should everyone experience a V10 or own a V10 at some point in their life, or is it just?
I don't think it's that necessary, mate. But I mean, the thing is, like, most people really can't afford a $100-odd grand supercar to experience it, and apart from going and buy an old M5 or an old Audi, which I don't advise, by the way, just to experience the V10, because there are better cars out there. The previous M5, which was the manual V8, that's a much better car than that V10, in my opinion.
Because V8s are brilliant. I'm sort of with you. I've set this all up as like, the V10 said, I don't think I care. Actually, wait, there's another car. There's another car with a V10, that McLaren Solus GT thing. You know, that track-only, do they call it hypercar? You know, it was part of Gran Turismo, and then they're actually going to build it. It's like a single-seater McLaren Solus.
When was that?
It came out like last year, something like that. This thing. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah. Was that a V10?
That's going to have a V10. It's got a Judd V10. It's like an old Le Mans engine.
Loose. Oh, yeah, because originally, didn't we all think, because the crossover with Audi maybe buying McLaren.
Yes.
And then we thought, oh, he's going to put the V10 in that
Yeah, we thought
car.
it was the Audi V10, but it's not.
It's not.
It's still a 5.2 litre, but it's not the Audi V10 engine.
Yeah.
It's a weird, ex Motorsport, Judd not F1, but Le Mans engine. But so somebody else, but again, it's a track only. So they've clearly got their benefits, V10 engines, in a sort of motorsport track only situation. But as a road car engine, it's not really been.
Especially because you can turbocharge a V8. You're right. Who turbocharges a V10? No one. There must be a reason for that.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. Do you care about V10s? Are we alone in being like, well, yeah, they're cool, but
who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to say. If somebody told me that there were no more V8s, I would cry because I genuinely love a V8.
No,
I think I love a V8 more than I love a V12.
Me too.
Yeah.
I genuinely do think the V8 is the best engine. Full stop.
I'm often left disappointed by a V12.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Because they vary so much. So for me, right, 599 GTO, arguably one of my favourite V12s, just based on its sound. But then you get in a Phantom. Sure, it's impressive. Emotionally, I'm not that tied to that engine. Gotta be honest.
Because Merc do a V12 in the S class or whatever.
The SL65 Black Series, twin turbo V12.
Yeah.
By the way, 670 horsepower and 1,000 newton meters of torque in 2009. Terrifying.
Make the world go round the other way.
Oh, literally. But that's the thing is that the V12 seems to be an engine that can be so different depending on displacement and turbo, non-turbo. And so much where the V8, I just feel is far more recognizable. Like you get in a V8 car, you're like, oh, there's that engine.
Yeah. And depending on how they set it up, because obviously you get low revving V8s and high revving V8s. Ferrari always have normally high revving, and again, Mercedes with that twin turbo V8 engine. Obviously, I think that's one of the best engines. Full stop. That
sure.
V8 twin turbo engine, not the 6.2, the bi-turbo.
The 4 litre.
The 4 litre. I think that's an unbelievable engine, that car.
No, I'm with you. So if the V10's about to go, between V12, V8 and V6, what do we think is going to go next?
Please not V8.
I say please not V8 as well. But we've just said how great it is, how brilliant it is, how much we love it. If you think about it, it is also kind of dying because people are moving away from it. Merc with the AMG, the C. Oh my God, people, help me out today. I'm dying.
C63.
Thank you.
Ferrari
moving away, going to the V6. Who else has ditched a V8? There'll be other people. EcoBoost Mustangs, but they still do offer a V8. But I actually think the V8 could be next because the V12 is clinging on because brands like Ferrari, Rolls-Royce can make it work.
BMW ditched the V8 from the M3 to the...
Oh no, the V8's going to go next. Let's start a campaign.
Let's do an episode next week on V8 dying.
No, let's start a campaign. Save the V8.
The best engine ever.
But it won't make sense because if you hybrid V8 or if you're always going to go smaller, aren't you? You're going to go 4-cylinder, or you're going to go V6 or whatever, 6-cylinder. But a V8, it's just too big and hunky and chunky. It's the best engine ever, but it's going to go next.
Don't be like that.
It is, mate. Right, we've got to start a campaign. It's a disaster. We can sit here and bang on about how synthetic fuels is going to save it, but I think people are fed up of us talking about synthetic fuels. Got to give it a break for a while. Well, anyway, that brings you up to date with our life and the end of the life of the V10.
And the V8.
And probably the V8. How depressing. My God. But yeah, just a reminder, as I say, we are looking for a researcher/producer. Skills required are hopefully some video editing skills and an incessant knowledge of the automotive world, past and present, and the availability 1 or 2 days a week, ideally in the southeast of England. Email jobs@seenthroughglass.com. Live show dates, let's rattle through them one more time so you can put them in your diary. We will be sharing more info as soon as we can, 25th of June is the first one. Then we move on to the 30th of July, 27th of August, 17th of September, and then finally the 29th of October before we then head to Australia for Behind the Glass live tour in November. So lots to look forward to, including the rest of Test Drive Month on the main channel. I already talked about the cars that we're going to be doing on that, and then some adventures into Europe, which Tony's going to be coming to join me. So we're going to be doing quite a few episodes in May and into June. I think we're going to do a few episodes abroad, aren't we?
Lovely.
So I'm coming to see you in Spain as well, aren't I?
You are, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be recording remotely.
At the end of the month, I'm going, I can't wait to go away.
That, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
We haven't been. Weather,
yeah, it's a disaster, mate. I haven't been away since September as well. Like, it's a long slog.
Long slog, mate. Anyway, so subscribe now and turn on notifications if you're watching us here on YouTube. If you want to join in on live streams of these recording sessions and get involved in the live chat, you can do that at recast.tv/behind the glass. If you want to follow Tony, he's at Tony Gravelwood Car Sales on most social media platforms. I'm at Seen Through Glass on most social media platforms, and we'll be back with you with another episode next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.